Okay, hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. You guys, I'm having some issues with my mic. So if you guys are hearing static at all at any point, can you please tell me on the receiving end if you hear that so that I can try to fix the cord. I don't want you guys to have to deal with that. I don't want you guys to have to deal with the... Okay, no static now. Okay. All right. So, where do I start here? All right. Please make sure you give me a thumbs up. I realize some of you guys will probably not agree with me on this. Some of you will not like what I have to say. If you are a fan of Blair, you might not appreciate any criticism I have towards her. But I want you to know that I walked into this after spending hours reading about Jessica Yaniv and understanding her legal issues that she is currently dealing with in British Columbia. So to give you a very high level, let's start here. If you are new to these two people, which I was until very recently, and I'm gonna just give you my very like raw, honest approach. And I'm probably gonna after this do more digging into both of these people because to be honest, I found them to be both problematic on a lot of different levels. One, for just the things that they were saying and how they were treating someone, and two, the other person just what they're doing is terrible. Okay, it's not a competition for who's more problematic though. Okay, so here's the long story or short story of what it is. Jessica Yaniv is a transgender woman who lives in British Columbia, Canada. She is currently in the news because she has brought complaints to the British Columbia Tribunal, which is sort of their court system, related to some discrimination she says that she has had related to getting services at from estheticians for waxing, for facials, for just services for her body. Okay, Jessica is pre-transition. She's I don't really know the words here. She has changed her gender legally. She dresses as a woman. She has not yet had gender reassignment surgery, I should say. Okay. She is currently, according to her, taking different estrogen and hormones and all of those good stuff. But she is still very, she's earlier in the transition phase than Blair. Okay. Now, people are very angry at Jessica because they believe that she has put people out of business, that she is bullying people that are denying her. So she wants to get her nether region waxed. She says that multiple in-home places have denied her to wax after the fact of her telling them that she is transgender. Okay. Now, in the court documents or from the tribunal, which I've read through the National Post, which is a major Canadian paper, many of the women actually didn't deny her because she was transgender, but because they didn't either have the training, they were only certified to do female genitalia, not male, or one was a Islamic woman or a Muslim woman who was against her belief system to touch male genitalia. Okay? Now, right or wrong. I'm not here to really debate. For the most part, the women that declined her were declining her not because she was transgender, but rather they did not feel comfortable and they thought they might hurt her because they didn't have the training or skills to do what she wanted them to do. Okay? So she has gone off and immediately asserted that this is discrimination. Now, she has 16 complaints, and of those, they have been at primarily small-time estheticians that are doing this from homes, very small businesses, maybe one or two commercial businesses, and several of these companies have since gone under from the negative press that she has brought against them. Now, in the state of, or in British Columbia, there are protections, and she is saying that they are not, they are like going against her right to get gender affirming services, okay? And she considers gender affirming services a Brazilian wax. Okay, I'm not here to debate like what her ideas are about what makes her feel affirmed as a woman. Now, that's not really, now that in and of itself, okay, you can get angry about this or that, but then there's this whole other umbrella with her. She's kind of a predator. There are a lot of accusations out there that she is using her platform to reach out to underage girls to talk about very inappropriate things, such as, wanting to date them, sending pictures of her genitalia, wanting to go to a party that is topless for kids. It's weird. There's photos of her going pre-transition into a women's bathroom and taking pictures of kids. She's massively obsessed with menstruation. She says that she's intersex and can menstruate. I don't know how that's possible if you have a penis, but I'm not privy to any of these. I'm not privy to any of the genetics that goes on with it, but I would think if you don't have a vagina, you're probably not going to menstruate. So, being that blood in women from menstruation does not come out of a urethra, which is the only opening that a man would have in a penis. So riddle me this, okay? She is obsessed with talking to people about helping young girls put tampons in, and if she should see this, when she's in a bathroom, does she just like go up to a girl if she sees a string and asks them for a tampon? Like, how does she do these things? Like, now it's all very creepy and weird, okay? So her lawsuits sort of post date all of this creepy behavior, right? So her coming into the limelight with all of these lawsuits has made a lot of these people out here saying, ew, she does really weird things. She's kind of a predator. And so all of these, like, there's lots of websites. So you can, like, look up her name, Jessica Yaniv, and you can see the screenshots. I'm not going to put them up here. Doesn't matter. Like, you don't need the receipts. You can Google it. It's out there. Some of the things she says are very inappropriate, I would never want a grown person speaking to my child this way. Definitely on the verge of predatory. Young 14 and 15-year-old girls coming forward saying that they felt very uncomfortable by her. So this is Jessica. Now, she's in the news right now for all of these stuff, and then people are accusing her of being a predator, and then she's insisting that she menstruates, which is completely implausible and a lie. She lies about a lot of things. She lies about everything, pretty much. She says that she didn't send these text messages, even though they've been out on the internet for a really long time. In fact, there's a website all dedicated to her and being a predator, and the screenshots that she has sent to people and screenshots of conversations she had with people before any of these lawsuits came to the forefront. So on last night's stream, Blaire White, another male to female transgender woman, was interviewing or debating her. I couldn't really figure out what she was doing, to be honest. Now, Blaire White is equally as, maybe not as criminally icky, but has some very polarizing and I don't know, let's just say I don't know a lot of trans women that share the same opinions as she does, okay? She is an anti-feminist. She's made Islamophobic statements. She doesn't believe that someone that is transgender can be non-binary, so she believes that there is only a female or a male, and there is no such thing as a transgender person that describes themselves as non-binary, meaning they might not see themselves as female or male, but sort of a combination of the two. And that's simply a possibility because there are transgender people that feel that way, okay? Non-binary transgenderism is a thing, but she says it's not. She also says that transgenderism is a mental disorder. It's not. She discusses many, like, she doesn't believe in rape culture. She doesn't believe that women, she has made statements about how there isn't a pay gap between men and women, that there isn't discrimination against women. She mocks transgender women that can't pass. So if a transgender woman is earlier in her transition, she has made videos and mocked them and called them out and made them feel bad. And she calls them trannies. And she makes really it seems like she is your typical conservative right-wing, very right-wing, even though she says she's not very right-wing. She sounds like she's alt-right, you guys. In some of her belief systems, she consistently refers to people as SJWs. And if somebody isn't able to transition in the easiest way that she was able to transition, and she doesn't pass the same way that she passes, they're wrong. It's their problem. Everything is in their head. Society shouldn't have to bend or do anything else. She's written blogs about there shouldn't be a need to offer bathrooms that are for everyone. She says that people who haven't properly transitioned and can't pass shouldn't use the bathroom of their preferred or not designated, or I don't even know the right word, and I don't want to offend anyone that's transgender. So they should use the bathroom of their assigned gender at birth, is what she says, okay? You shouldn't use the other gender's bathroom unless you can pass perfectly, which isn't easy for all transgender women, okay? Not all transgender women are petite like she is, have a higher voice like she does, or are, it's just not that easy for all people, let's just say. I actually don't really find, if you guys think that her political system is I have a lot, okay, I'm going to start right here. I'm going to stay out of chat, you guys. I have a lot of transgender followers, lots. I've made my platform a safe place for people that are at all phases in their transitions, from the people that are literally still living in their daily lives as their assigned sex at birth, or their assigned gender at birth, but still are a transgender woman, to people that have fully transitioned, to people that are in the process of getting ready for surgery. And I do not believe that you should ever mock someone for not being able to pass or pass the way that you believe. I don't think it's something that's wrong with their head. It's not a mental disorder. And if you are a transgender woman, saying that there's no such thing as sexism or pay gaps or any of these issues is just literally like ignoring logical data that exists. It's convenient, okay? I'm not saying that she leaned, okay. Here's the thing, you guys. You can look at her politics, and you guys, you know what? I'll read you some of the stuff that she believes, and then we'll get to the actual debate. But you can draw your own conclusions off of this, okay? Here are some of the things. She calls transgenderism a mental disorder. She says that she believes that there are only two genders, and non-binary genders are called trans retarded. Terrible. She thinks that people that decide to transgender as children is, she calls them trans trenders, and it's child abuse. She is only supports straight trans women. She does not support trans women that are lesbians. She thinks that trans women who don't pass shouldn't use bathrooms. She doesn't care about using preferred pronouns. She doesn't like the word queer. She thinks it's brainwashing. She has made videos that bash people that are transgender, that for not passing. She says that rape culture doesn't exist. She says the gender gap, pay gap isn't real. She argued in a video that Islamophobia is reasonable. She's opposed to Black Lives Matter. She belittles the movement in general. She doesn't believe in privilege. She doesn't think that there is such a thing as white privilege. She said that Roseanne Barr wasn't racist. So, this is all online, you guys. It's not a hate article on her. It's literally like you can like go to the links and you can watch what she says. I literally watched a video of her today saying there is no such thing as a pay gap and rape culture doesn't exist. There you go. Okay. I'm not going to debate this with you guys. You can Google her name. You can see what she says. She's not clean. Okay. Everyone has issues. Okay. So you take one person who has a very polarizing view of things. I don't think, all right. You guys might not agree with me. That's fine. I'm not for people that seem to believe that in my world, you don't misgender someone. In my world, you use pronouns that are the preferred of somebody's. In my world, you don't tell someone who is transgender and a lesbian that they don't matter. In my world, you don't say rape culture doesn't exist because it does. In my world, you don't say things like Islamophobia is okay. In my world, she refers to people as SJWs. I mean, these are all talking points of people that are conservative, and I don't care if you're conservative, but it's pointing out and minimizing people and exploiting people, and to me, that's not okay, and it's never okay under any circumstance to refer to someone as a tranny or to like mock someone and their ability to pass. Okay? Nobody's telling you to leave because you disagree. This is my channel though, and I'm just gonna ask you guys to be like mindful that not everyone on YouTube thinks that Blaire White is the bee's knees. And I'm telling you, as someone coming at this from both angles, I don't think either one of these people are awesome, okay? I don't think either position is okay. Now let's just get into the flat nitty gritty of the damn debate, because it's 20 minutes into this and you guys are yelling at me already, and let's just talk about the debate. First off, Jessica Yaniv, I'm not a supporter of her. I think what she's doing is shitty. I think she is, I think that, Blair has a point. She made a point. What's the point in going after these women and ruining their livelihoods and suing people for not wanting to go after or to perform waxing on you if they're not comfortable or not skilled? I completely agree with Blair there, okay? Jessica says it's not that, it's that she needs this as a. I would say, based on my assessment of this, is that Jessica is doing this not for the sake of actually doing anything. She's doing this because she's just being a dick, okay? Or an asshole or a bitch, whatever you want to call it. She's not. I don't genuinely get the impression that to her this is about actually like being angry about not getting it. It's like she walks into the situation expecting to be discriminated against, and then when she is discriminated against, she blames it on the fact that it's because she's transgender and it's not because she's maybe being a jerk. Okay, I kind of agreed with Blair in that assessment. Now, what I don't agree with Blair about how she handled this is the way that she belittled her or called her names or the tit for tat about who is hotter. Listen, Blair is clearly a very attractive person, but why do we, in a serious debate, need to go back and forth about whether or not someone's attractive, how their hair looks, what their wig looks like, whether or not you believe they could pass? Mocking their ability to pass in the appropriate way. Now, I believe that Blair believes that Jessica isn't really transgender and is just doing this as a way to be a predator. That's a lot. I mean, to make that assumption, that person would have to go through a lot of steps in the world. Like, I just don't think like telling someone who's transgender, like, you're not transgender enough for me, or you can't pass well enough as I did, or your voice sounds more like a man, and so that's why they're being mean to you. It's not because you're transgender, it's because your voice sounds like a man, so they think you're talking like a man. Well, not everyone, again, has a voice, and I know many trans women who their voices didn't change very much going through all of the hormones, and it's still low, and no matter what they do, they can't change their voice. So, you know, there's some parts of this where it's, instead of actually attacking the issues, Blair's going after what she just doesn't simply like about how Jessica perceives or lives in her own life as a transgender woman, which to me, there's so many things that she can attack here that doing this to me feels very irrelevant. Why do you need to go after somebody's how they live as a transgender woman? There's enough here where you don't even have to do that. You can just say, why are you like, she goes after her for lying about being able to menstruate. I totally agree with that. I agreed with the fact that she went after and discussed the things of the screenshots. There are lots of screenshots. Jessica, here's the thing, you guys. You can still be transgender and be a predator. They're not mutually exclusive. They're not also mutually inclusive. So just because somebody is transgender or straight doesn't mean they're automatically a good or bad person. There are good or bad people in all walks of life. Now, I understand Blair's frustration because of the perceived idea of what Jessica's doing is she's making all trans women look like the stereotype. And I agree with that. Most of the trans women I know do not act like Jessica. They're not predators. And there is a very wide held belief and a very unhealthy stereotype that people that are transgender are predators. And it's simply not true. But you can be transgender and a predator. It can happen. So just like I could be there's just, but what I feel like Blair's point of view is that she thinks that Jessica isn't transgender and she's doing this solely to be a predator. And I don't know that that's necessarily true. I just think she's probably transgender and a predator at the same time. So, Okay. So that to me is fine. Like, okay, if you want to attack the things that she's done, attack the things that she's done. If you want to criticize where you feel like she is minimizing or setting back the rights or making it harder for transgender women, yes, I believe you can do that without getting so vile and vicious and cheap shots and going after, and listen, Jessica was no better. Jessica brought out pre-transition photos and was trying to misgender Blair, and that's not okay either. And so what I'm saying here is that both of these people were being really petty, and maybe these were just the two wrong people to have this conversation, because the emotions were very heightened on both ends. And Jessica lies about everything. But Blair doing this, it doesn't bode well or look well for women, whether you're a transgender woman or a cis woman. Like, I don't believe in shaming someone for how they look. I don't believe in fat shaming. I don't believe in shaming someone for having a bad wig. I don't believe in criticizing someone because they don't like their makeup. Like, that's not necessary. And this went back and forth, and it was distracting me as someone who actually cared about the argument and cared about the issues when the pettiness gets in the way of all of it. That's, I guess, my biggest point here, is if we're going to have these kinds of conversations and we're going to act like women because both of these women want to be perceived as women, right? They want the world to say that they're women. So I'm telling them as a woman, get rid of that petty bullcrap, please. You're both women. Every human has the capacity to be beautiful. Every person has the capacity to be equally as ugly and as terrible. And so Blair going and just going for like the low-hanging fruit, and just like there was so many things that could have been done instead of name calling and resorting to calling her an idiot or a moron or ugly or fat, or it really distracted me, and I was hoping to really hear something valuable. And I'm not disagreeing with the things that right, Keely, that's my point. It hurts me that when you are trying to have a debate, the only way that you can actually debate is by insulting one another. And what hurt my heart as someone who is an advocate for women who are transgender or for transgender men is that this type of debate deflects from the real keen issues of what this community faces, and it paints it in a way that transgender women look petty, or that women are petty, and we are not petty. Intelligent women, when they need to discuss things, don't immediately resort to calling one another ugly, or saying, well, you're not hot. Oh, I'm hot. Or you're just so manly. I'm more girly. Like, none of this is necessary. Did I agree with the facts that I don't like what Jessica's doing? Yes. Jessica is a freaking turd. What Jessica is doing is turd-like. Is that me calling her a name? Maybe. But, going after young kids and going into their DMs and sending them pictures of your genitalia, and there's tons and tons and tons of proof that she did this, and she denied it over and over and over again. Or they're made up, or they're fabricated, or they're this, or they're that. Clearly, no matter any way you look at it, Jessica is the perpetual victim here. Everyone in the world is out to get her. So I didn't disagree with Blair telling her that the problem is her. It is her. But the problem with Blair was that she had, instead of coming at this from a like calm and just sort of like, let's just have a conversation, it immediately got nasty. Exactly. Thank you for saying that, Sedelia Lynn. Even if you don't think she's trans, just have manners. What does that take from you just to use correct pronouns? Not a damn thing. So, I think it's necessary, if you are going to host someone on your channel, that even if you know that they are a controversial person and you're giving them a platform, and she gave Jessica a huge platform. So to me, this felt less like having a conversation with Jessica and more like, I'm going to humiliate Jessica, which if that was the goal, fine. But be honest and like forthright with your viewers that this is what it is, and not say it's a debate. This wasn't a debate. This was an hour of just humiliating her. Okay? And you can be angry at Jessica for the things that she's done, and you can be angry at her for how she's conducted herself, but like, misgendering or taking away her transgender belief, like her telling her that, oh, you're not transgender enough. How do you know? Do you live in her life? Do you know what she's going through? Be annoyed at her actions. Be annoyed at what she's doing to the kids, but don't just don't. It doesn't. That's what really bothered me. It's not up to me or to you to decide whether or not you think someone is transgender. That's the thing. If someone says they're transgender and you believe and they are living their life as a transgender woman and they have gone through and are taking hormones and going through and changing documents with the government, you must believe that this person is transgender. Even if you don't believe it, calling them out and calling them, saying that you're just doing this as a predator, is then perpetuating the fact that people simply become transgender or change their gender to be predators. And what if she's just transgender and a predator? What if it's just that easy? And that's crappy, because no one should be a predator, right? I didn't say she misgendered her. I said that, like, she said she couldn't pass well enough, or she made a lot of comments about passing. And to me, that's just not, like, that's just not okay. Like, not everyone can pass the same, but that doesn't take away from the fact that they're not a transgender woman. It just doesn't. I have plenty of transgender friends that are working on passing, and it's a struggle. And it's not easy for everyone. I don't disagree that what Jessica is doing is harmful. I absolutely agree what Jessica is doing is harmful. 100%. I guess what I wish I would have seen in this debate was someone that was not stooping to these levels, not getting ticky-tack, not jibbing and jabbing, they were both just nasty to one another. And if you know that Jessica is a perpetual liar, and you know that this is how she's going to be when she comes on, and you know yourself maybe aren't going to be able to handle it, then maybe you shouldn't have her on your show. Or, I don't know. I was left very confused by all of this. And like I said, I'm open to... Yes, I said she has done damage to the trans community. Did you not hear me? Did you not hear me when I said that? I do want to tell you guys that there are transgender women in this chat, and, please be mindful of the things that you're saying. I see. That's what really. Jana. That's what got me too. Was I thought it was also going to be a debate. I thought they were going to go point by point, and some of the things, even Jessica is completely problematic, but some of the things she brought up weren't off the wall. I mean, being discriminated against is a huge issue within the transgender community. It's a huge issue that many of these people face and are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And so I don't think it's fair to minimize those types of things. So even if you don't like someone, I also don't think it's fair to say, well, I don't experience this in that way, so it's not because I don't experience that discrimination, it's impossible for you to experience that. That's kind of the argument I felt like I was getting from Blair. Now, I could be wrong. So, Jessica denies everything. Yes, we can agree that she's definitely using discrimination for a specific motive. But I don't know that it's appropriate to debate that she's going through all of these steps and working with doctors and taking all of these steps to simply become transgender so she can be a predator. Like that, you guys, that's a massively big wormhole of conspiracy to believe that someone would go through all of those steps to simply become a predator. It's maybe more probable that Jessica is transgender, but also very troubled and also a predator, and not necessarily being transgender to be a predator. Okay, so Jess, I do want to show you something. Jessica was a little bit untruthful about the steps that you have to take to change your gender in British Columbia. I'll show you. I actually went to the website to find out how you would go about it. And if she has gone through these steps, this is what you have to do in British Columbia to change your gender. You have to either get your birth certificate updated, which would be you have to submit a copy of your updated birth certificate to the health insurance place. In order to get a birth certificate, like to change your birth certificate in Canada, you have to actually go through a doctor, which goes through and discusses all the steps that you've taken to go through gender, to change your gender. You're going through counseling. You have a psychologist or a psychiatrist sign off on all of these things that verifies that you're doing everything, and then that has to be submitted to the province to make the determination, blah, 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 blah. Now, if you don't submit your birth certificate, then you have to do step 2, which would be a copy of an application, which was what she showed, right? She showed an application, but then you also have to have a copy of a physician's or psychologist's confirmation of change of gender designation. So you have to work with a doctor to verify that you are in fact going through this designation change for gender. So then once you do that, you have to fill out the form. Your doctor has to fill out a form. You have to be working with a doctor, and then you send it into them, which then you get a certificate letter, and then you go to step 2, which after you get the confirmation letter, then you can go and change the original preferred or copy of your application for change. You change all of that. You send all of that. You send in a piece of your primary identification, one piece of secondary identification, and you send in all of those documents then to the province, and then they change your gender. So it's not as simple as her simply walking in and saying, I'm going to change my gender. She would have had to have worked with a doctor. Why she's omitting that fact, I don't know. I don't know how she managed to gloss over this. Like, it's literally on the British Canadian website. So either she just, I mean, she does have to fill out that form, but she also has to provide proof from a doctor that she's doing all of these things. So is she doing all of these things, or is she lying that she's doing all of these things? I don't know. I don't know why she would admit it. Like, you guys can see it right here. This is directly from, this is the British Columbia requirements from their website. Instructions for changing your gender designation adult. It's all right there in black and white, or black, yellow, and green. So I was ready, Jess, because that was the one part of this that I was like, that's a weird statement for Jessica to make, is that she is saying that you can just make a simple change. Now, if you're going to have somebody that's from another country on and you're going to talk to them about a legal issue that you believe they are taking advantage of, what I wish Blair would have done was versed herself with what the laws are for changing genders in Canada. So when Jessica brought that information, she could have said, boom, you're lying. This is what you actually have to do. And then we would have been able to see her backtrack or say something. I guess maybe just doing a little bit more like fact checking to me, I guess, is important. Misinformation. So, right, it puts into a lot of the things that she said around Canadian laws. Now, in the articles, though, that I did read about this on the National Post, there are a lot of issues with, like, the way that it's being played out, okay? So, technically, she could win based on some of these points, because they are denying her services based on the fact that she is transgender, okay? But did she have to do it? Did she have to sue them for these things? Was it necessary? That's the sort of the ethical and moral question here. Legally, she's within her rights to file these complaints. And that is her legal right in British Columbia. I also looked into that. I would have her on as a debate. Like, I would probably do some research about Canadian law. There's just a lot of things in here. I think it was just not very well prepared. There wasn't, when I saw her talking about the changing the gender part of it, I was like, that's a really easy thing, is like, if you don't know the laws, check what the laws are in Canada. It's not that hard. Okay? All Blair kept saying, well, that's a problem. Well, that's a problem. And if you do care about information being accurate online and not being a part of fake news or, false information, I take information I'm a believer in making sure that I bring facts and I have things covered and I can clarify so that I'm not spreading out things that aren't false. And so a lot of you left that thing thinking, hey, you know what? In Canada, all you have to do is fill out this form. No, actually, you have to do a lot more than that in just Canada. A lot more. But was this for clout for me? Is that directed at me? I'm not doing this for clout. I don't do these kinds of things for clout. I could care less about clout. You're welcome, Jess. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Piper of Pink and Lisa. You know, I don't have to hate Blair for her politics, and I don't believe in her politics. But I also think that if you're going to have someone on, you should probably know the laws that they're fighting. Jessica absolutely likes clout. She's definitely doing this for clout. She told her it was for clout. Um, No, somebody's been telling me to do this, and the reason why I've never seen Emma Chu, I've never seen you in my chats. So if you are new to this channel, you should know that I don't care about clout. What I care about is fake shit on YouTube, and I care about the LGBTQ. I care about um, like I'm just a believer in like not having misinformation spread. I try to call people out on their crap. I just, in this case, people asked me to look into Jessica. I did. I happened to find this debate. I found issues on both sides in this debate. And I just wanted to talk about it because it's a trending topic, which is what I do. I talk about trending topics. That's my channel. Um, so that's I write about trending topics. I'm a writer. It's just yeah. It is hard to talk to someone that doesn't admit their faults, Bella. Absolutely. And I definitely think that if you're going to have someone on that's lying and you know that they're going to lie, then you should have your evidence to prove that they're lying, not just your assumptions or your facts or your I'm not just your assumptions or your beliefs. So in a situation where she's going to know, if Blair knows she's going to lie, then she should have like, "Oh, you're lying about this. I can prove it to you." Or, "Oh, you're lying about this. I can prove it to you." Right? And there just wasn't any of that. And I guess that's sort of, and I guess you guys, I'm not, again, I understand also why Blair is feisty, okay? I understand why she's mad. Like, what Jessica's doing is definitely making, like, the entire community very angry, okay? All of my transgender friends that I talk to about Jessica Yaniv, no one likes her. Everyone thinks she's a problem. Um, I I hope you guys know that, like, I just, when I bring up the things that she believes in, I also think that that matters because a lot of women that are trans, or a lot of transgender women would be offended by some of the things that Jessica says and how she approaches her belief around transgender women, okay? And as a friend, as someone who has a lot of friends that are transgender women, I get very protective of them, and I think it's really yucky. I don't even know the right word. It's just really rude or inappropriate or just not kind to go after someone for not being able to pass. And I get very Scarlett Scott. If you see the name Scott in there, Scott is Scarlett. In Scott in at work, Scarlett is Scott. She is pre-transition, but I'm also very protective of Scarlett because she is a friend of mine and she wouldn't pass right now, but she's not trying to pass. But that doesn't mean she's not any less a transgender woman than someone who's gone through all of the steps. Because all of it starts up here. All of it starts with your, what they feel, how they feel on the inside, what their, how they identify and understand the world, all of that. That none of the surgeries really can change. That can only just line everything up. The thoughts and how you get there don't really change. And so, when I hear someone talking about passing, I immediately think of Scarlett, or I think of my other friends like May, who is in the process of getting ready for gender reassignment surgery and is also non-binary. So when I see her making statements that it's not okay for someone to be transgender and non-binary, I get protective of that, because it's not actually, it's misinformation for her to say that it's not real, because science shows that it's real. If that makes sense. I hope you guys understand. I'm just very, you guys, I've spent so much time and energy of creating a community where women, transgender women, can come here at any stage, whether they are pre-transition or all the way to the already gone through all stages of surgery, or to the ones that never, who do transition but never want to have the surgery. Like, all transgender women, no matter what they are in terms of like what their anatomy looks like, they're all transgender women. Okay? And like, when we start arguing about whether or not you can pass, or if your voice is enough or it's not enough, like, these are all insults that are used by the mainstream against transgender women to insult them. So why should then transgender women resort to those types of attacks? That's what upsets me. If you know that the outside is going to be judging you on passing, why then should you be judging others on passing? It's like you're creating part of the problem. I think right, Bill. That's exactly what she did say. She said you have to look either woman or male. And that's the issue I had, and why I was upset watching that, because I know for a fact that I have transgender friends that are not there and might never get there, and that's okay, and that doesn't make them any less transgender. Correct, Steph. What's underneath somebody else's clothes is not. So if I was coming out feisty and irritated by some of her beliefs in the beginning, I hope you understand now. If you're going to come back and watch this stream after, I am going to apologize ahead of time for how all over this place was, but I really did want to have an interactive conversation with you guys. And yeah, I didn't like her like attacking the wig, saying it's a Party City wig, that kind of stuff. I just didn't think it was necessary. If that's her issue, then that's fine. But there was a lot of times she talked about passing that wasn't related to, she was saying that it was okay for someone to hang up on her because she had a deep voice and she thought she was a man. And so it's Jessica's fault that that person thinks she's a man. And I think in that moment, Jessica, as crappy as a person as Jessica is, if you're transgender and you just want people to think that you're, you want people to acknowledge you for the gender that you are, and they don't, it's very debilitating and it feels really crappy. And so you don't have to agree with everything Jessica says or does, but she does have feelings. It's a weird dichotomy. It's a weird place, you guys. Is she problematic? Yes, but she's entitled to have feelings. She lies about everything, but she's still entitled to have feelings. I don't know. Imachu, I did watch a couple other streams of hers and some of her other videos, and I will say that the other stuff that I watched of hers, she can be kind of catty. She has an entire stream, for instance, where they mock someone on Instagram who was a transgender woman, and they were like basically making fun of her for like an hour because she didn't pass. So, Yeah, if we're talking about this from a debate, it wasn't a debate. It wasn't a debate at all. This was like a dumpster fire. It should have just been titled Dumpster Fire, because that's really what it was. I do. I have I can get you the link. Hold on. She and one of her transgender friends, they basically mock this person that is transgender, and they basically are saying like she doesn't pass well enough. And listen, the transgender woman that they were mocking had a beard and stuff, and was definitely more of the I would call it more of a non-binary. So she seems to really attack those that are non-binary, and that to me is problematic, because just because someone's non-binary does not mean they're not transgender or not, you know. All right, hold on. She has an entire series called Triggering Trannies, you guys. That's another part I didn't really like. Hold on.
Today a man on the street pointed to me and said, "What the hell is that?" I wanted to turn around and tell him that I got this dress on sale and I got this body for free. And
huge conferences and speak about trans people, and like these companies make money by pushing this out there because people would rather look at this and people would rather be like, this is shock value, you know what I mean?
I know.
Yeah, I think if someone really wanted to go to task for Jessica Yaniv, they really need to have all of their stuff. But there's a lot of stuff that you can find. There's actually... Rational Wiki is another site that has... Now, the Rational Wiki stuff does have stuff where you'll be like, oh, that's biased, but it has links. So you can sort of go to the Rational Wiki and look at the stuff, and then you can verify by watching the clips to think, okay, do you agree with what they've said about her assessment, this or that? So there. Uh-oh. Why is this going off here? Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. I was buffering. Yeah, I don't like the word passing either. Yeah, I just, to be honest, you guys, I don't do a lot of interviews. I mean, okay, I don't do a lot of streams with interviews, and I don't generally walk into very controversial interviews if I don't think that I can contain myself, right? And I think if you are going to be very triggered and angry, then you're not probably the best person to be interviewing that person, because what an interview should be able to do is to be objective and ask questions without attacking. And she could have just let Jessica speak without having to go after her, because Jessica's words and how she was talking is enough for most people to realize that what she's saying is ridiculous. Yeah, you definitely have...
Can you make Play-Doh out of this ball?
Can I make Play-Doh out of this ball? Yes.
Make a ball.
I'm gonna make a
ball to wear. So you're gonna make it like round like a ball?
YouTube has already demonetized this video. How awesome is that? Oh, YouTube. You don't like these kinds of streams, YouTube. You hate these streams, YouTube. All right. This will not be monetized. But I didn't really care about being monetized. This was more for me. Yeah, you can't talk about this kind of stuff. Yeah, you can't talk about anything that's controversial or that will automatically like not monetize you. So, you know, I knew going into this that this would not be monetized, but I didn't expect it to happen right in the middle of the stream. And I think after seeing it, I was like, well, you know, this is the kind of stuff that I talk about on my channel, and this is the kind of stuff that I deal with when I'm writing my column on Pathios. So I cover a lot of stuff related to transgender rights and the LGBTQ+. And if you're new to this channel, I am gender fluid, hetero flexible. So, you know, for me, when I see stuff like this going on and I feel like it's maybe not the best representation of the LGBTQ+ community, I feel like I have to speak out. Yeah. Thanks, Clara. All right, you guys. Oh, monetized by Jessie Bear. Thanks, guys. Thank you guys for all of your super chats. It really means a lot. That was definitely not a like clinker to get me some super chats. But I will come back later with something more PG, I'm sure. Here you go, honey. I'm going to sign off because we're at an hour and nobody's going to watch this if it gets too long. So thank you guys for sticking with me. If you are new to this channel, thank you for hearing me out. I got a little bit irritated in the beginning. I do have ADHD, so sometimes it's very hard for me to try to figure out what I'm going to say and then also deal with all of the different blah, 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 blah. So thank you guys for joining me. I'll be back in a little bit for something else less controversial. Thanks, guys. Bye.